It is Sunday, August 17th, 2025. Thank you for being with me. I'm meteorologist Brian Shields. Hurricane Erin, winds right now 125 miles per hour, 200 kilometers an hour. It is moving to the west-northwest. In this video, I want to show you the big turn it's about to take as it works its way more to the northwest and then the north, and why it is taking that turn. I want to show you the Turks and Caicos, some of the impacts we're going to have as this gets a little bit closer. Same thing for us in the southern Bahamas. So we'll zoom down to that, and then I want to go long-term and show you the chances of kind of how close it gets to North Carolina, Bermuda, and the Atlantic region of Canada. New areas in monitor mode, plus new tropical waves out there. And I want to show you some of the ocean temperatures and the heat content. That's a little bit sciencey, but we'll do that as we work our way through the video. Thank you for your patience. Let's get right to it. Again, watching this, still again on track, west-northwesterly track. It's going to kind of level out with the winds today because it is making an eye wall replacement cycle. Then later today, as the eye wall, the new eye wall, starts to tighten up and shrink, that's when it should strengthen. So late today and tonight, there should be a re-strengthening, but very wide in size. That's what we're going to see as it makes its turn. It's going to grow in size, and those rain bands still working in. Thank you for leaving those comments. I've been going back and forth with you all night long. British Virgin Islands, U.S. Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, for example, St. Kitts and Nevis. We've been tracking a couple of the showers around. So thank you for leaving those comments as we continue to build this weather community. So we have this here. That is Hurricane Erin, a major hurricane. And then we swing out here. There's a new tropical wave near the Cabo Verde Islands that's going to continue to work its way off toward the west, right? And that one could develop, and another one just getting into satellite range on this perspective, another one that should develop some. That is common for this time of year. I do want to show you this as these kind of march across the Atlantic. So we're going to cover that. I'm watching us very carefully, as we well know, in the Caribbean to see how these new tropical waves are going to shake out as we go throughout the week. Now, back to Erin. Here's the most likely path, taking that turn to the west-northwest and more toward the northwest, but it will be relatively close, a close approach to the Turks and Caicos and southern Bahamas. Turks and Caicos, I do expect tropical storm conditions similar to what we just had and still have in spots in Puerto Rico and in the British and U.S. Virgin Islands. Then it should be just off toward the east of the Outer Banks of North Carolina and to the west of Bermuda. That should keep the hurricane winds over water, which is key, but there is still a chance of some outer rain bands across extreme eastern and the Outer Banks of North Carolina, in watching how close this gets to Bermuda to see if we have some tropical storm impacts that will be moving in. It will stay just off toward the southeast of Cape Cod and the islands, and then a very close approach and a wider system as it works its way up toward Newfoundland and the Avalon Peninsula in particular. So you can see it making its curve. It will stay a major hurricane. There'll be fluctuations in strength. Track is actually easier to forecast. The strength is actually very difficult, and that's why I want to show you some of those hot pockets in the water. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But as this makes its turn, extreme southern and southeastern Bahamas back through the Turks and Caicos, that's where we could have tropical storm conditions. Much of the Bahamas okay, though. Bahamas, we're talking 700 plus islands, right? Northern central Bahamas, we are in good shape. Now, this is why it's going to make its turn. I always talk about high pressure as the blocker. High pressure could also steer things. So what you have is this big blocker sitting off in the central Atlantic. That's the area of high pressure. Winds around it are clockwise, so this system, Erin, is just kind of riding along that, just kind of feeling that overall flow, and it gives it that chance to work its way more to the west-northwest, then northwest, and then eventually to the north. If this big blocker were sitting right over here, or at least stronger, that would allow this area to work its way off toward the west. And that is something I'm going to watch for, those additional tropical waves, watching the environment to see if those tropical waves shoot right into the Caribbean for us, or if they start to make more of a turn. More on that in a moment. So monitor mode, Turks and Caicos. We're not in action mode for hurricane conditions, but I do believe we're going to get tropical storm conditions. Some of the winds, 50 miles per hour, 80 kilometers an hour, right? So some tropical storm conditions late today, tonight, into tomorrow, and that will clip us by in the extreme southern and southeastern Bahamas as well. Now, as we work our way into Bermuda, still in monitor mode. As of now, I still expect the hurricane conditions to be off to the west. We'll see how it makes its turn. So we're holding in monitor mode, but it's going to be a larger system, and a larger system as it approaches the Atlantic region of Canada. Nova Scotia, it looks like this will stay mainly to the south and east, but it could swing a little bit closer Friday into Saturday over toward Newfoundland in the Avalon Peninsula. We could get some flooding. Action mode is possible. So giving you the heads up, I track the storms start to finish. I don't want to just, hey, they're not hitting here, so we're just going to forget about it. I will track it start to finish for you. So here's that turn around that area of high pressure I made. Here's Bermuda, Outer Banks of North Carolina, so trying to split that. And then as we work our way toward the Atlantic region of Canada, that's what we'll be tracking through the week ahead. So some fluctuations in strength over the next couple days, but holding as a major hurricane. This is a day out, 2 days out, 3 days out, and then eventually we'll get a little more gradual weakening as we work our way down the road. But this is going to stay a powerful system for days and days. Now, as far as how close it gets to the Turks and Caicos, a relatively close approach, right? As it stands now, hurricane conditions would stay off to the east, but tropical storm conditions would be working in. The European model is a little bit closer, just 115 miles the center off toward the east of the Turks and Caicos, or 185 kilometers. So with that said, this is going to be a growing system that would still keep the hurricane conditions just offshore, but that would at least clip us by with tropical storm conditions in the Turks and Caicos and parts of the extreme southern Bahamas. So here it is, show you the big picture, and then we'll start to zoom around. Lots to cover. So again, thank you for your patience. The core of this to the north of Puerto Rico, but those rain bands still working in Haiti and the Dominican Republic. This is not moving in for us, right? We'll get some of those rain bands that will be possible, but this is not moving due west at this point. West northwest, I showed you why it's going to make the turn. The bigger turn will be really later tonight into tomorrow. So just watching that over a few hours. The west side of it, getting those rain bands into the Turks and Caicos for tonight into tomorrow. Though in those rain bands, just like we're seeing in Puerto Rico and the U.S. and British Virgin Islands, tropical storm conditions. So that's kind of a preview of the weather as we work our way back toward the Turks and Caicos to give you that heads up, exactly what we've been seeing in Puerto Rico and back through the Virgin Islands. Then by the time we get into Wednesday, here's Bermuda, right here, Outer Banks of North Carolina. It's going to grow in size. As of now, this core, those are the hurricane conditions. They'd miss North Carolina. They'd miss Bermuda. We'll see how that shakes out, though. But the outer rain bands could move in. And again, if you get those outer rain bands, we could get some tropical storm conditions. So now, this is Wednesday at 3 o'clock, right? Let me expand this out further. Just the view. This is still Wednesday at 3 o'clock. You see the time frame here to show you down the road what happens. You get over toward Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, Cape Cod, over toward Falmouth. You could see this area lifting its way to the south and east of Nova Scotia, desperate for some rain in spots, right, over toward the Maritimes and the Atlantic region of Canada as a whole, but we do not need this system because this is still going to be packing a punch. The American model on Friday, this is Friday morning, has the center offshore, but a big slug of rain that may move in with very windy conditions. Coastal flooding, depending on your exact terrain along the coast, and you can see all the way through Friday night. There could be some impacts, parts of Newfoundland over toward the Avalon Peninsula in particular, so watching out for that. Now, the European model is a little bit more toward the south and east, but this is down the road. I need to see how it makes its turn over the next 24 to 36 hours. That'll dictate what happens way down the road. So here are those winds, those very strong winds north of Puerto Rico, not coming to Haiti and the DR. Here's that a wind field for you where you see these brighter colors showing up, or I guess, deeper colors, the reds, the yellows. Those are the hurricane conditions that would be just off to the east of the Turks and Caicos. And then by the time we get into Wednesday, here's Bermuda, Outer Banks of North Carolina. By the way, the seas are going to be a mess. We'll cover the seas in a moment. Very dangerous seas. Even in Barbados yesterday, those seas were rocking around. Hurricane conditions would split Bermuda and North Carolina, so that means they would be staying right over water. Really hoping that happens because it's still going to be a powerful system. Then by Thursday, working its way up, stiff northerly breeze for Nova Scotia, back through Cape Cod Bay. But the European model wants to take it a little bit more toward the south, while the, or rather kind of a little bit more southeast, while eventually this American model wants to take this closer to Newfoundland, where we have the potential of hurricane gusts by the time we get into Friday. Now, I'll be able to tell tomorrow if we need to go into action mode in the Avalon Peninsula over toward Newfoundland. Hang with me another day. I want to get some more information. I want to watch this thing throughout the day, but I'll give you that early heads up if we're going to have some hurricane conditions moving in. So here again is Erin. And then we turn our attention to these new tropical waves. Here we are in Trinidad, Barbados, Dominica. Now, these tropical waves are going to be moving toward us in the Caribbean as we go throughout the week ahead. There'll be some gradual development out of these tropical waves. That's what we'll be tracking together. So here we are in the Caribbean, Cabo Verde right here, watching for some additional flooding throughout the islands. And then as we work our way out in time, let me take you into the middle of the week. This is by Wednesday. I know there's a lot going on here, and a lot of the models are kind of in agreement with this, with that potential of some development. This spot in here, right? This is the area that could start to develop into a tropical depression or tropical storm as it approaches us late week in the Bahamas, or excuse me, in the Caribbean, and then another area back behind it. So as we work our way out in time, by Thursday, especially late Thursday into Friday for us in the Caribbean, I do expect at least additional rain, right? That's where it stands now. And then another tropical wave back behind it. And some of the models have both of these developing. This here would be by Friday. You can see by Friday, this spot here in this spot sitting right in through here, another tropical wave that will be coming off. The European model wants to swing them kind of more Erin-like, a little bit more to the north, while the American model wants to drive these into the Caribbean and then eventually over toward the Gulf. So that's what I'll be watching out for carefully. But again, for us in the Caribbean, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, up through St. Kitts and Nevis, Dominica, Barbados, St. Lucia, Grenada, we're going to watch this carefully. At the least, late Thursday into Friday, a higher chance of rain. If we need to go into action mode, will give us the heads up island by island as these evolve. But as it stands now, it's looking like a higher chance of rain by the end of the week, and we'll be watching out for development together. Here's the issue, though, and one of the reasons Erin intensified so quickly. Yes, the water temperatures are warm this time of year. We know that. It's August, it's summer, they're almost always warm. But this is what I really kind of look at in the water and really dissect. Look at some of these reds in here, even some of the yellows where Erin passed over. The reds in particular in the Caribbean and parts of the Gulf, that is, this is high ocean heat content. So that's warm water, but the warm water is very warm even down below. The water's warm down below as well. So the depth of the warm water is very substantial. So what happens is you get a system like Erin or Beryl like we had last year. If it rolls over some of these hot pockets, it can go from a tropical storm to a major hurricane rather quickly. We talk about that a lot on this channel, and you get that rapid intensification. Know that behind the scenes I'm watching that. So as we watch these new areas approach the Caribbean and maybe potentially parts of the Bahamas, US, we'll see down the road over toward the Gulf, I'm watching also carefully the track, the energy it's going to feed off of some of these hot pockets. But it's not just that. I'm watching what's going on in the atmosphere as far as some dry air goes, as far as wind shear goes, all of that stuff to really watch out what happens as we go forward. Now the sea's an absolute mess. Here we are in the Bahamas. You get to Bermuda's right here. This is by Tuesday, and you can see everything just building. As this system builds, those swells work out. We're talking 6-7 meters, 30, maybe 40 feet in the open waters. Just some incredible stuff in the bad sense of the term. And even as this area is up toward Newfoundland and the Atlantic region of Canada by Friday, the swells are still moving in. So incredibly dangerous rip currents, high seas, elevated seas. I mentioned Barbados earlier. You could just, this Erin didn't move into Barbados, but we could just tell that there was something out there with the seas. So again, the very elevated and dangerous seas across the board, rip currents, and even that possibility of some beach erosion far away from the center of this thing. So here it is, the heaviest hurricane conditions to the north of Puerto Rico, north of the Dominican Republic, watching those rain bands, scattered areas of rain, Costa Rica, Panama, not a lot elsewhere. And then by the time we get into tomorrow, you can see those rain bands that will be working into the Turks and Caicos overnight and early tomorrow, and even the southern Bahamas. And then that area on Tuesday lifts. But all eyes will be on what's happening. Well, I'll be watching this as well, but all eyes will be on what's happening off toward the east of us in the Caribbean to see what's moving in next, if it's just rain or if it is something more. And I'll know that over the next 24 to 36 hours. So watching the rain amounts as we swing back toward the Turks and Caicos, as I mentioned earlier, we could have some higher totals, 4 inches of rain or 100 millimeters of rain. And we'll see how those rain bands just kind of sweep into parts of the southern Bahamas. Hit or miss showers and storms, Cuba, for us in Jamaica, Cayman Islands, Haiti and the Dominican Republic, a few of the rain bands moving in. Again, Haiti and the DR, Erin is moving away, but still some of those rain bands. Same thing as we work our way into Puerto Rico. Depending on some of the bands of rain that I've been tracking overnight and watching this morning, we could have some additional spots of 3 to 4 inches of rain. That's on top of what we've already had. Same thing, parts of the British and U.S. Virgin Islands. And then as we swing off toward the east and south, much less Saba, Statia, Antigua, Barbuda. Those seas are still elevated, but as far as rain goes, we're not looking at a whole lot in most spots. Interior sections of Venezuela, better chance of some higher totals. Could get a few spots of 100 millimeters of rain. Western Panama, parts of Costa Rica, El Salvador, still a decent chance of rain. In the Mexico City, running up toward the west, better chance of rain. As we work our way into Texas, some additional moisture on the Houston, Beaumont area, swinging back toward even Lake Charles as we work our way into Louisiana. All right, so 50% chance of spotty showers and storms for us in Jamaica, just a 20 to 30% chance in the Cayman Islands, rain chance about 30 to 40%. Trinidad and Tobago, so we're not looking at a lot. Barbados, 30 to 40% chance, passing shower possible as we work our way into St. Lucia. Isolated shower possible in Grenada, 30% chance over the next few days, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Rain chance 40% today in Martinique, about a 30% chance for tomorrow, and we do that again as we work our way into Dominica. Of course, all eyes off to the east with those new tropical waves. 40% chance in Guadeloupe. We swing back toward Antigua, Barbuda, may catch some of those far outer bands today. Same thing as we get into St. Kitts and Nevis and Montserrat, a little bit more so. Anguilla and St. Bart's, still a 50% chance of some of those rain bands moving in. St. Martin, Saba, and Statia. We work our way back through Puerto Rico. Of course, it's been generally 80-90% chance of rain, but as we work our way into the afternoon, about a 60% chance. Some of us drying out, others still getting dumped on. Same thing, U.S. and British Virgin Islands. Isolated showers possible in the Bahamas. Southeastern Bahamas, kind of a big difference. We're mainly dry northern Bahamas, but I covered the southeastern Bahamas where we'll have the better chance of some of those rain bands clipping us by. Turks and Caicos, this is really tonight. Tonight we're looking at a higher chance of rain, 70, 80, 90% chance with some of the rain bands that will be moving in. Across the Dominican Republic, some areas of rain as Erin moves away, 60% chance and a 50% chance in Haiti, 30% chance in Belize. We don't have a lot of action around. Aruba, Curacao, and Bonaire, that rain chance is staying on the low side. 40 to 50% chance in Guyana, Suriname, just about a 30% chance over the next couple of days. And we'll watch out for some spotty thunderstorms as we work our way back through Cuba. 60% chance Costa Rica and Panama, and about a 40 to 50% chance in Nicaragua. Rain chance holding at 30% across Honduras. Rain chance 60% Guatemala and El Salvador. About a 50% chance on Tuesday. 50% chance of scattered rain and thunderstorms in Mexico City. 40% chance across the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. 50 to 60% chance in northern Colombia, and holding on to a 60% chance northern Venezuela, especially interior sections. Better chance of flooding. Of course, Bermuda, all eyes on what's going on with Hurricane Erin and the big turn it's trying to make today. So Hurricane Erin will start to make the turn, especially tonight into tomorrow. A close approach tonight to the Turks and Caicos, watching out for those tropical storm conditions, keeping an eye on Bermuda, North Carolina, Canada as we work our way down the road, and closely watching those new tropical waves. The next name on the list is Ferdinand. So thank you for your trust, sharing this information. I hope you're doing well. I know some of us have power outages and all of that stuff. So again, we'll be thinking of you throughout the day. We'll be going through the comments together. Have a good rest of your day.